Welcome into another episode of New England Sports Guys. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Ian Mann, and we're going to cover, some small topics, nothing important today. Tom Brady retires, arguably the greatest player to ever play football. Brian Flores is suing the NFL and 3 teams for alleging racial discrimination. I think he's got a strong case there. New coaches for the Jaguars, Giants, Raiders, and possibly the Vikings. The Washington football team finally picked a name. They're called the Washington Commanders. We'll talk about that. Dan Snyder's in some trouble again. That's not a real surprise. And then the Winter Olympics started in Beijing this week. There's also the Pro Bowl, and there's also the NHL All-Star game as well. But before we get into all those topics, let me bring in my co-host for the podcast, Smitty. Smitty, what have you been up to?
What is up, Ian? Well, since we last talked, quite a bit. We just got back from Florida yesterday. We went down to Disney, went to Universal for a day, Disney 2 days, hung by the pool. It was really nice. We got delayed, as you know, we got delayed on the way out. We were supposed to fly out Saturday morning, which we should have been able to, but they ended up canceling, and we were like the last flight to get canceled out of Portland, Maine on Saturday or on Friday night when they canceled. So we ended up looking to rebook for Sunday, but everything was already taken because all those flights Saturday were moved to Sunday. So we ended up changing to Monday. I don't know if I told you this, but I think I did. On Sunday, you check in 24 hours before your flight. So Sunday, I'm like, okay, 11 o'clock. We're supposed to fly out of Portland, have a layover in Atlanta. I check my phone, go to check in. It says 24 hours until check-in. I'm like, no, it's 24 hours until the flight, not check-in. So I look into it a little more. Well, on Friday evening, when Casey and I were trying to book our flight and her mom's at the same time because they weren't on the same itinerary, so it was a pain in the ass trying to do that. I ended up accidentally booking for Tuesday instead of Monday flight. So called and got it all squared away. We ended up having to drive down to Boston on Sunday evening. We flew out first thing Monday morning, finally got to Florida Monday mid-morning, 10:30 or so. Got to the condo, sat in the pool, sat in the hot tub. So by the time we got there, it was all set, but did a lot of walking. I think we averaged about 6.5 miles each day at the park.
Need a segue.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So I was pretty exhausted from that. Played some golf, played night golf. I've never done that before. Andy and we played 9 holes. It was a par 3 course.
Was it a course where all the lights are turned on? Or is it a course where you have to use like a go in the dark ball?
No, it was your own golf ball, but it was all par 3 and the course was lit up, but we played at night. It was like beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for better weather. It was mid to high 70s all the way up to like mid to high 80s the whole time we were there. So then Tuesday was Disney. We spent most of the day there. Wednesday, Casey's mom and I went to Universal and went around there. We went to Harry Potter World, that sort of thing. Did some Jurassic Park stuff. And then Casey and I rode the Incredible Hulk, which she didn't love. I loved it. She got off. She was a little woozy, but it was a lot of fun, the Hulk. And then Thursday we went back to Disney, did Magic Kingdom again, and a bunch of the rides and that sort of thing. Friday we ended up sitting by the pool, and Friday morning played 18, and then after that came back, relaxed a little bit, and then we went over to the pool because at the condo we rented, there was a personal pool and hot tub, like a little tiny one. And then there was a little like water park basically for the whole community that had a lazy river, a couple water slides, a big pool, a hot tub, and then a little like activity area where kids could spray water guns and that sort of thing. Had a bar there and an ice cream social place and things like that. And so we ended up going there for a number of hours. I don't know how many it was, but it was quite a few. And then after that, we went out to Disney Springs and hung out for a little bit, which was a lot of fun. It was nice to hang out. The one thing I will say, people traveling are so weird. I don't know if you've ever encountered this. Like I do a lot of traveling for work, right? But I wrote this down on the way down because it was so weird. I had to like capture it. So the guy, not directly in front of me, but the row in front of me across the aisle, so I could see him, you know, in the backside of him. He took his shoes off and he took his socks off and was sitting there on the flight barefoot. And he took his tube socks and tucked them in the back of the seat. Like, how much of a degen do you have to be to do that?
Right.
You know, I was like, what the hell is the matter with you? And then,
I mean, I've definitely seen people take their shoes off. That's not uncommon.
No,
because a lot of people try to take a nap or sleep.
I'm not a huge fan of the shoes off in general, whether you have socks on or not, but it literally tube socks, like, you know, the 18-inch sock that goes up your whole calf. He's tucking them in the back of the seat. I was like, Jesus, I had to write it down because I didn't want to forget that one. But I looked over and I was like, what the hell's the matter with you, guy? And then like just the stress of travel. When I travel for work, most of the time, if I get delayed or, you know, things go wrong, not a big deal. Traveling for personal, it's still not a big deal, but I don't know, it's just aggravated. A little different. Yeah, it's a little different, right? And so we had a couple issues, you know, over the course of the weekend. Travel back was phenomenal. It was great. We got there in plenty of time, dropped off the rental car, had some breakfast at the airport, that sort of thing, and then flew right into Boston, which was great. That was the one thing that did make it good. It was a direct flight to and from Boston, or from and to Boston. And then just the drive was the only issue. So
yeah, Boston to Maine's no problem.
Yeah. From the airport to my house, probably 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
You know, so that made it pretty nice. Again, it was a little nerve wracking going into it, but made it great. I didn't sleep, wore shit pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, people are used to their own bed.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, Patrick had a phenomenal time. He loved it. Had an awesome time in the pool. The kid wouldn't get out of the pool pretty much the whole time we were at the condo. So spent a lot less money than I thought I would, which is great. You know, so that part was nice. And then certainly appreciate you and Sarah taking care of Dono and then coming over and snow blowing while we were gone. That was nice. I certainly appreciate that. I told Casey we'll have to make you a ribeye
deal.
I figured that would be a good enough deal for you. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a fun-filled week. I will say at the end of it, I was pumped to get home. You're just, again, so exhausted and ready to sleep in your own bed and kind of get back to a normal routine. But one last thing before I let you to kind of talk about what was going on was so excited that Florida has Yingling. It is such a good beer. Yeah. I crushed.
Well, they're out of Pennsylvania down there. So
yeah, they're out of Pennsylvania, but I don't understand why
they don't go past Boston.
We don't get them here.
Massachusetts. Yeah, it's weird.
So
we always have to have somebody who's going through picks them up.
Yep. But no, that's like I said, that was what was going on, and excited to see the Super Bowl coming up. Last week was kind of the what's word I'm looking for, the interview week that they go through, right? the press week or whatever they call it, and then this week's kind of the more serious time leading up to the Super Bowl for Cincy and the Rams, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit. But what have you been up to? What'd you do this week?
I babysat that terrible dog of yours. He's such a good boy. There was a couple snowstorms, so I had to do some snowballing. Not a whole lot. I mean, you picked the wrong week to go on vacation because like the news cycle just blew up immediately. So
Right.
Tom Brady's retirement. So we'll go into the first topic. So Tom Brady's retirement accidentally got leaked out by somebody. I think somebody at ESPN leaked it out, and I think it's supposed
Adam
to be
Schefter.
Yeah, but I think it was out before he mentioned it. But so I think it was supposed to come out in Man in the Arena. I think that was supposed to be like the last episode. I haven't seen
no
Man
kidding.
in the Arena, and they pushed back that episode. But I think that's what it was. But then sort of like the cat was out of the bag, and so for a couple days, Tom Brady had to be like, "No, I'm not retiring." And then people thought it was because of the money, because if he stays on till like February 4th or something, he gets 15 million from the Bucks. But he ends up retiring. He ends up coming out like a day later. I think it was Tuesday, and saying that he's retiring officially. And so everybody's, doing their homage to him on all the news cycles and all the channels. And then the Brian Flores news comes out.
Yeah.
So Tom Brady's retirement should have been like this
glorious,
sort of like
celebrated
glorious
time.
2-week thing, going out on his own. And, he didn't want to eclipse the Super Bowl. So he was kind of holding off. So it could have been in the week between, like right now, this whole week would have been a great time. But then he sort of got sidestepped by Brian Flores suing the NFL and 3 teams for alleging racial discrimination, which we'll get into in a minute. So, I mean, plus all the coaches that are getting hired and fired and DCs and offense coordinators. So, you picked a very, very interesting week to go on vacation. Nothing happened.
I know, it was so funny. Like what was it? So it originally came out Sunday, I think, was the notification that Tom Brady's retiring, according to Adam Schefter. We talked about it last podcast, didn't we? On Friday? No,
I don't think so.
I don't remember. But anyway, that so that came out, and then it was, well, that was just report. Like nothing actually officially came out. And then I think, like you said, I think it was Tuesday. I was standing at the carousel in Disney at Magic Kingdom and got the official retirement. So I'm pretty excited. I'm happy for him that he did get to go out on his own terms, right?
Yeah. I mean,
wasn't an injury that made him retire, or a group of injuries that, concussion issues or something like that,
Right. Like Aikman Young retired because of the concussions.
Yep.
Alex Smith, who's not on that level, but his career was cut short because of the injury, but he came all the way back and played a season or half a season. So he went out on his own terms. But there's really nothing I can say. I've watched Tom Brady my whole life, essentially, because he came in 2000, 2001. And so like, that was like when I was becoming an adult. So like, I've only known winning in the Patriots for 20 years of just Tom Brady being awesome. So, I mean, 7 Super Bowls, he went to 10, he owns every QB playoff record, every Super Bowl record, just because he's played in, 8 more than anyone else, probably. Pretty close. I think John Elway went to 4 or 5. I think Elway went to 5. He was 3-2. He lost his first 3, I think, something like that. But so Tom Brady basically owns all these records because he's also like the first quarterback to really be in like the passing era of the Super Bowl. So like, even if you go back to like John Elway, they still ran the ball way more than they passed it.
Well, John Elway also had a guy, maybe you heard of him,
Terrell Davis for 98, 97, 98. Sure.
Yeah. That was a monster.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. he had a short career, but he's, I think, in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. He was dominant those years he played.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Brady had a unique style. I never thought he had like the greatest arm or anything, but it was all about decision making and making players around him better and people that fit the system and the dinking dunking. But we got to watch 2007 when he actually had Wes Welker and Randy Moss, and of course, they shattered some records there. The only downside is they didn't win the Super Bowl that year, but so like Tom Brady's method works. His accuracy works. He basically perfected throwing the ball into the ground, like as a strategy,
and not getting lit up. If he was going to get sacked, he went down instead of taking like a monster hit.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. He learned how to fall.
Yeah.
So like Aaron Rodgers, every time he falls and Tony Romo, they stick their arm out and they break a collarbone. Tom Brady doesn't do that.
No,
Tom Brady basically didn't have many injuries except for the one time somebody got pushed into his leg and blew out his knee
against the Chiefs. That was the first game of the season in 2008.
Yeah, it's basically the only season he's missed or the only games he's missed due to injury. So he's been remarkably durable for 20 years. Hell, I bet they could have just put a knee brace on. He probably could have played. Ryan, what was his name? Drew Brees? No. Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers played with a torn ACL against the Patriots in the playoffs one year. So I bet they could have done it.
Was it his plant leg, though?
I don't know.
Because that would be one thing. That's the one you kind of rotate on, right?
But the biggest thing is I'm going to miss Tom Brady playing on Sundays. His level of excellence and at high level that he's been playing at, he's 44 and he's probably going to win the MVP this year if Aaron Rodgers doesn't win.
I was going to say Aaron Rodgers is going to win it.
I don't know. Aaron Rodgers flamed out. I know it's a regular season award, but Tom Brady still threw for 5,000 yards or something this year and led the league in touchdowns. So to go out at that level at that age is unprecedented. Most people aren't doing that at 34. He did it at 44. So,
most people aren't doing it their whole career.
Yeah.
Like even once.
Yeah. And Tom Brady definitely got better with age. I thought. So now, especially playing in the Bucks have weapons and stuff like that. You really can't fault him for having such good weapons at this age. That definitely helps his stats for sure.
Godwin and Mike Evans are
pretty good. Pretty good.
At worst, they're two of the top 10 wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, at worst. And then they had Gronkowski, who's still top 10 tight end.
Yeah,
Hall of Famer. So I heard this stat that I'm going to steal from Colin Cowherd in the Herd. In the past 25 years, Tom Brady has more playoff wins with the Bucks than the Cowboys. He's only been on the Bucks for 2 years, and he has 4 or 5 playoff wins, whatever it was last year to get to the Super Bowl, and then they beat the Eagles this year. I think the Cowboys only have 3 in 25 years.
He also has more wins against the NFC than Aaron Rodgers, which is really funny.
In the playoffs.
Yeah, sorry, in the playoffs.
Which is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Especially with how many good Green Bay teams is or have been. That's the one thing. People always want to compare Aaron Rodgers as the greatest quarterback. He's not. He doesn't win. When it comes to quarterbacks, you rank them by Super Bowls, and then after that, you can divvy up stats. Rodgers only has 1 Super Bowl. I think he's only been to 1, and he doesn't win in the playoffs.
1 or 2?
He only has 1 Super Bowl.
No, I know. No, I thought he had been to 2.
I don't think so. Peyton Manning went to 2. With the Colts. Then went to 2 with Denver. Peyton Manning's 2-2. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I thought Aaron Rodgers was 1-1 in the Super Bowl, but maybe not. Maybe they just beat Pittsburgh. That what was that 2005, 2006, something like that.
That was 2010.
2010. Is this
anyway?
Right?
Aaron Rodgers only has 1 Super Bowl win. Tom Brady has 7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, nobody's going to catch his record. Nobody. Like literally nobody. That's unbreakable territory, essentially. Even if Pat Mahomes would have to rip off a few to even get close. And, Pat Mahomes only has one. The only reason we give Pat Mahomes a chance because he's so young.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow could start if he wins one now. But again, they'd have to have dynasties to do that. And Brady's been part of 2 dynasties. If they won the Super Bowl this year, he probably would have come back for another year. And then the Bucks had a good chance to go into 3 in a row.
Yeah, they're going to be in cap hell this year again.
Yeah, whatever.
Depending on, I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign a lot of their players. Like Chris Godwin may leave in free agency.
Yeah, but he's got a busted knee, so it kind of lowers his value a little bit. I heard a rumor that Teddy Bridgewater is going to go there
to
Tampa Bay.
I'd love to see that.
Somebody rumored like Jameis Winston going back there. Bruce Arians would lose his shit.
Oh yeah.
So let's get into the big news that came out this week. So Brian Flores is suing the NFL and 3 teams for alleging racial discrimination. So he's suing the New York Giants, who basically gave him a sham interview just to meet the Rooney Rule. The Broncos, same deal, sham interview, and then the Dolphins for firing him and then also bribing him to try and lose games, which is another big allegation coming out of this.
He's not the only team that has said that, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah. So let's start with how this story broke. So Bill Belichick apparently sent a congratulatory text to Brian Flores on getting the New York Giants job, thinking he was texting Brian Daboll, the Buffalo Bills offense coordinator, now the New York Giants head coach. So the text messages, I don't know if you have them up, Smitty.
I do. You want me to read them?
Yeah, go ahead. Those are pretty damning.
So this is a couple screenshots from Brian Flores and the text messages were from Bill Belichick. So it starts from Bill Belichick. Sounds like you've landed. Congrats. And so response from Flores, did you hear something I didn't hear? Bill Belichick, Giants, ? Exclamation point. Flores says, I interview on Thursday. I think I have a shot at it. And this is, it doesn't say the date on the text message. It says yesterday at 7:30 a.m. So whenever he took these screenshots. But anyway.
Sure, but we know that this is before he interviews for the
prior
Giants.
To his interview. Yep. Bill Belichick responds, got it. I hear from Buffalo and New York Giants that you are their guy. I hope it works out if you want it to. Flores says, that's definitely what I want. I hope you're right, coach. Thank you. And then he goes on to say, coach, are you talking to Brian Flores or Brian Daboll? Just making sure. Bill Belichick, sorry, I fucked this up. I double check and I misread the text. I think they are naming Daboll. I'm sorry about that. BB. But then he says, thanks, Bill. So, yeah.
Bill Belichick obviously knows something that Brian Flores does not. And Brian Flores hasn't interviewed yet, but the Giants need to interview him to meet the Rooney Rule.
But you would say, didn't you say that they interviewed Leslie Frazier prior to this?
No, after.
Oh, it was after.
So I think that, I think this news broke and they're like, oh shit, let's just interview another one just to make it look like, we're going to do that anyway.
Wow. So the only thing, we talked about, and this is all speculation on our side, is that because Bill Belichick assumes GM duties as well, maybe he was talking to either the Giants or Buffalo about something else and overheard conversation. I don't know that Bill Belichick has any influence on who gets hired around the league. That wouldn't, but I'm sure he has inside conversations.
Right. But I bet he has inside conversations with the Giants because that's where it's the organization that he really had success with. He has close ties there. If he were to ever leave New England, that's where he'd go.
Yeah, but even his close ties, besides the owner, is there anybody left that he had ties to? You know, it's new GM, it's new coaching staff. It's just the Maras left that he has ties to. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. But I mean, it's a small league.
But
so I did do some Googling real quick, and the Bills did do a virtual interview with Leslie Frazier 6 days. So Friday they completed their second interview with him. So obviously on Sunday they must have done the virtual one. So they had already met the Rooney Rule with interviewing Leslie Frazier before interviewing Brian Flores. So,
but even still,
but to go in for your first interview or whatever, and then already deciding that they don't want you,
it just looks shady, right? If they've already named a head coach, why wouldn't they just call Flores? If they've already met the Rooney Rule, why wouldn't they just call Flores and say, "Hey, listen, appreciate you setting up this interview, but we're going to go and move forward with a different candidate."
Right.
That's a pretty shitty thing to do from the Giants or from any franchise.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Rooney Rule. I understand why it was put in place to give other minorities options, or at least interviews that they weren't getting before for offensive, defensive coordinator, and head coach and GM positions. I think those are the positions that it covers. But it doesn't. I don't think it's actually helped anybody get a job. So, like, I think a lot of it has to do with obviously the owners. All the owners are white. Almost
except
all
for Jacksonville.
Yeah, Sean Khan is Middle Eastern. So that's kind of a problem. So in society, generally, you hire people that talk like you, look like you, people that you can communicate with. So until there are more minority owners, I don't really see there being a ton of change. There's only a handful of organizations that are really like putting this forward, and I think Tampa Bay is one of them. Everyone on Bruce Arians' staff, he has 2 African American offensive defense coordinators. He has a woman on the staff as a coach.
Strength coach, I think.
I think she's Did you say strength coach?
Yeah.
So I mean, he's actually, or that organization is actually doing diversity, in the correct way. It's a difficult topic to talk about, but I don't think the Rooney Rule. The intentions were good to give those minorities the opportunity to actually get interviews that they weren't getting before, but very little has come out of it in transparency as far as like how diverse the league is, as far as in those higher positions. Because right now, what do we have? One African American coach.
Tomlin.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin. And so Brian Flores was fired, who had a winning record. We'll get to that as well.
Well, he had a winning record last year. His overall record with Miami was like 2 games under 500. But because their first year, they were abysmal.
Yeah. But he had back-to-back winning seasons. So
correct.
Jim Caldwell also has a winning record as a head coach, 36-28. He got fired after a winning season as well. Hugh Jackson, he's an okay coach, I guess, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I don't think it's really helping the league. But also, you want to hire the person that you think is most qualified, but sometimes you just hit it off with certain people, so it's hard to really say that there's anything racial about it.
Yeah. It's unfortunate we need to have this rule, right? Like you said, I'm a hiring manager at my company, and I hire whoever, meets the position's needs. It doesn't matter man, woman, what race you are, what your sexual preference is, anything like that. Shouldn't matter.
Right.
If you're the right person for the job, you're the right person for the job. And if you think this coach is going to win you football games and get your team to play as hard as possible for you, that's the person they should go with. It's ridiculous. I understand what you're saying about the old rich white guys, and maybe it's true. I hope it's not, but
Well, Dan Snyder's a good example. His organization, and I'm surprised he still owns a team, but his organization is sort of like the good old boys. Like that's who Bruce Allen was, and so they're still in dealing with some sexual harassment allegations.
The couple women in front of Congress, right?
Yeah,
this
that
week
just popped up this week. So, I mean, until he basically has to sell the team and give it to somebody who knows how to run an organization like the correct way.
I think not to jump ahead or to jump ahead. I don't remember when we're talking about him here.
Right, we're there.
Talking. What's that?
Right there is fine.
I thought we had him in here at some point as a news topic.
I had it listed at the top.
Oh, you did? Okay, we missed it. Anyway, so really quickly on Dan Snyder, I think I saw, even though they testified, I think I saw like he has to release all those emails for Congress. Right. Even though Congress is calling for it, he has to consent to releasing all those emails. Right. And at this point,
what a shame.
I'm sure they've all been deleted.
Yeah. He really just needs to sell the team. More and more of this stuff will keep popping up. And the problem with buying a team right now is it costs you roughly $4 billion. So I don't see a lot of minority groups coming out with $4 billion. So continuing on the Brian Flores stuff, the other allegations, the Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, offered him $1,000 to lose games in his first season. $1,000 per loss. So that's a big problem because that's a competitive issue. That's an integrity issue. That's a gambling
Ethics,
issue.
Yeah.
So right there, Stephen Ross should probably lose his team if that's true.
Yeah.
There were also, he wanted Flores to tamper with Tom Brady. He asked him to like nudge, get Tom Brady here.
Of course he did.
When he was under contract. So there's some other smoke there. And so those are some serious allegations against Miami. He's a winning head coach and then they fired him. So it's weird though. How do you get fired being a winning coach? Beating Miami. Beating New England, sweeping them this year, going 4-2 in the last 6 meetings or something like that against New England. Like that is this is where the double standard comes in. So like if you were going to fire Brian Flores, wouldn't you know exactly who you're going to hire? Wouldn't you be getting a better coach? Like that, I'm firing you even though you had a winning record because I'm going to upgrade and get this other coach. But they haven't hired anybody yet. So like something's going on there. And don't get me wrong, they could fire him for whatever reason they want. I don't know if they need cause or not. But other coaches are coming out to sort of collaborate what Brian Flores is saying. Hugh Jackson came out and said that Jimmy Haslam didn't pay him to lose, but didn't encourage him to win either, essentially. So Hugh Jackson was trying to play games and he wasn't given the right talent, essentially. So that's why he went 0-16 with the Browns that year, and they went 1-15 the year before, something like that, 2-14.
Yep.
So then Hugh Jackson gets fired, but they also weren't trying to win. So that hurts Hugh Jackson, getting jobs in the future. Anybody who worked for him, under him, gets basically screwed because they were also part of that 0-16 team. And I wonder if we're going to hear from Jim Caldwell. So the problem with coaches coming out and supporting this or bring up their stories is because some of these guys are still trying to get jobs and they know that it's going to hurt their chances. But Jim Caldwell, he got fired from the Lions after having a winning record of 9-7. His total winning record was 36-28, a winning percentage of .563 in 4 years with the Lions, which is awesome. They were trending in the right direction. Matt Stafford. But this may have been more of an instance of Bob Quinn was the Patriots GM that went over there, or Patriots de facto GM.
Yeah.
That got poached by the Lions. And anytime you have a GM and a coach that are not on like the same contract, well, I didn't pick him. He's not my guy. And he went 9-7, which is actually still not bad.
Not bad for how bad the Lions were.
Right. So then they fires him. He brings in Matt Patricia, and then that turns into a dumpster fire and a rebuild. And then in 2 years with Matt Patricia, they only go 13-29-1 with a winning percentage of .314. So how do you fire a guy who's got a winning percentage of .563 and you go down to .314? Like that's horrendous. You could just say it was a bad GM move, but
yeah,
it seems like Caldwell was held to a much different standard and did pretty well, but then it just wasn't good enough. But then they didn't bring in anybody better than him. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I'm not really sure. I agree with most of or everything you just said there. Really,
I bet we're going to hear some more people are going to have to come out.
Yeah, and you touched on the Hugh Jackson stuff, so I was actually kind of reading that and not quite listening to you as much just a second ago. But he just said a lot of the same things you just said, that basically he wasn't paid to lose games or incentivized or anything like that, but he was saying that there was a 4-year plan that the team had to lose for the first 2 years, and then which they ended up getting back-to-back number 1 overall draft picks, and then start winning and be the youngest team in the league and start winning games and have a team that can kind of grow together. But he also said, he asked the ownership not to do this because it was going to hurt his career, like you talked about, and every coach that was on, and really player that was on that team at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And then he also on CNN, Hugh Jackson said that he told him that it had hurt every black coach that would follow him too. And he said he has documents to prove all this, and those will come to light at the right time. So like you said, more will come out about this. I don't know about Jim Caldwell. I always thought he was a good coach and like a pretty stand-up guy. I mean, his facial hair needed some work, but he looked like he like a catfish, or he had whiskers, just like right here. He didn't have anything in the middle. But anyway, so I really do like Jim Caldwell, and I think he should have another opportunity, like you said. But and really, well, I don't know about Hugh Jackson. I don't know that he deserves another opportunity. Granted, there might have been a plan, and that may be true, but 0-16 is difficult to do. Difficult to do. So, yeah. I don't know. I'd be very surprised if, that there isn't something from the ownership that I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but anyway, I do think there's validity to what Hugh Jackson's saying, because the Browns teams for how many years were pretty brutal. They're still not great.
So I was googling some Jim Caldwell while you were talking.
Blabbering on. So he took over for Tony Dungy in Indy, and they went 14-2, went to the Super Bowl, lost to the Saints. So that was his first year as a head coach. It's pretty good. Made the Super Bowl. Sure.
Second year, they went, I don't know, what's it say? 10-6, but they won the AFC South, made it to the playoffs, and then the Jets beat them. So that's kind of underwhelming. And then Peyton Manning was done. So then the
They
next
stuck for
year,
luck.
yeah. So the next year he has to suck for luck, and he goes 2-14. You know exactly what the Colts probably wanted, but then he was fired because of that. So that's another thing. Like the Colts weren't trying to win.
Yeah.
And they have a black head coach, and the black head coach is taking the blame here, even though he's doing exactly what the team wants him to do because they want the heir apparent to Peyton Manning. So, I mean, it's hard to get fired for doing what you're told to do. So and also before that, if you didn't notice, I was freaking out over here. It's because I spilled my coffee.
I didn't see that. I was looking at some other things, and then
I thought it was empty.
Olympic curling is on.
I like me some curling. Yeah, so Jim Caldwell really should have gotten, probably another 2 years. So he only had 3 years, but he probably should have had a couple more years with Andrew Luck. He should have gotten the right to coach Andrew Luck, in my opinion. And so he sort of got shortchanged there.
And then, like you said, the him going to the Lions and going 36-28 over his 4-year span, 9-7 in his last year there. I really think he should have get a better shakedown on.
That's better than any of the previous coaches by a long shot.
Sure. And any since. Although I do really like who's their coach right now?
Campbell.
Yeah, Dan Campbell. I always want to say Dan Quinn because the two guys look similar.
Yeah, I like Campbell as well. But again, he was what? 1-15, 1-16 this year? 2-16? 2-16
They had a tie
1?
against, they had a tie.
Yeah, so they have a terrible record, but it's only his first year, so he'll probably get it. He'll get a second year, but they're gonna make some improvements. They had a lot of close games. So
they did. I mean, we've already talked about them. They did have a lot of close games, and I mean, you lost on that last second field goal to Baltimore. Tucker hits a 66-yarder, right? Really difficult to hang that one on him. They just, I think I don't know if they set a record, but they certainly had quite a few games where they lost by a last possession, one possession game. So anyway, we can kind of get off this for now, but I want to
stay on it for just one more thing. So this hiring cycle is almost done. There are 3 jobs left: Houston, the Saints, and Miami. If you're Byron Leftwich or Todd Bowles or another African American candidate, Brian Flores, you don't want to go to Houston and you don't want to go to Miami. The Saints are probably going to hire Dennis Allen, who's their defense coordinator already. So that only leaves Houston and Miami. I feel like all the African American coaches missed the opportunities to get some of these premier jobs. I don't think Houston's a premier job, and I don't think Miami is either. Neither one has a quarterback, really. And neither do the Saints. But the Saints will probably stay in-house with Dennis Allen, like I said. So the only 2 openings are left are bad openings. Like really bad ones.
The nice thing about Houston, I'll say the team's bad. Don't get me wrong.
The owner's bad, and like the front office is bad.
Sure. Nick Caserio.
Not Nick Caserio. I'm talking about the other exetic.
Yeah, the vice president, president of operations.
Yeah, who's talking to Cal McNair or whatever.
But what I was going to say is I think what I was going to say, Houston has a really good opportunity because they're finally getting over Bill O'Brien crippling that franchise. And which should have happened by now, I'm pretty sure. Now that I think of it, it wasn't the stuff for Deshaun Watson supposed to happen in January?
Yeah, it's still going on.
Okay. Anyway,
there's no real timetable. There's not a deadline.
No, I know. I thought things were going to happen.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
It'll come out during the Super Bowl.
Probably. It'll come out on Saturday. But anyway, no, what I was going to say is Houston's finally getting over to that point where they
have to turn over the roster anyway. They got rid of JJ Watt, some of the older defenders. They had good defenses for a long time. So they got to just turn stuff over. And Davis Mills probably showed the most growth of the rookie quarterbacks out there. But I wouldn't want to go to Houston just based on the owner and the higher ups.
Sure.
Like when you're interviewing for a job, you got to interview the whole organization. Like it is like trying to take a Raiders job. Like when Al Davis was the owner, like, or Dan Snyder, like you don't want those jobs.
Yeah. And it sucks for David Culley because he was the one, this is his first opportunity to get a
head coaching job,
a head coaching job, and he gets gassed the first year, which was ridiculous.
Actually, he did well in my opinion, but
yeah, I think so too.
And then Miami also is another. So if you're not, the football team's not bad. They got a decent defense. They have some players on offense with Tua, Waddle, Gesicki. They need some offensive line help, but
yeah,
the team itself isn't bad. The problem with Miami, again, is the owner. Stephen Ross likes to meddle in things. He's a real estate business guy, does not work in Miami. He works in New York. So there's nobody really like watching what's going on day to day. So, and then you'd have to work with Chris Greer, who just basically threw Brian Flores under the bus and got him fired. So why would you want to work for an organization that's dysfunctional like that? It just, the only people that can do that or can go into those situations are people who have a lot of clout and people that you can't push around, like a Sean Payton, Bill Parcells, somebody who can.
You think John Gruden would go to one of those? I don't think he'd go back to the NFL at this point, but you think like
no, he's blackballed, but he has enough clout that he could go in there and demand what he wants.
And tell Chris Greer to pound sand.
Yeah. Mike Shanahan, somebody who can go in there and like win despite having a bad GM. Or get over the communication or dysfunction, whatever the problem is there. But I don't think any of these young rookie minority candidates can go in there and do that. They don't have the clout to do that.
No.
So I think those two organizations are just kind of screwed, and either they change ownership or something happens. So
they won't change ownership, though. I mean, there's no, unless
Stephen Ross might be forced to sell his team.
Well, yeah, Stephen Ross might, but
so Cal McNair of Houston. So that's another thing. Like the owner, I forget the other McNair, the father that died. Like he's the one. The organization was good. They were an expansion team. I shouldn't say they were good, but they were a better run organization than they are now.
They made the playoffs a number of years, right?
Right, but now his son's running, and his son doesn't know what he's doing, essentially. It's like when Mark Davis took over the Raiders, or Dan Snyder took over the Redskins. Like, you're getting people who don't know football trying to run a business.
Yeah.
But is it a business? Yes. But does that translate to wins on the field? No.
It's a different type of business. And one of the tough things that owners deal with, and I can't say I wouldn't be in the same boat, is, although I would try not to be, is you're the owner, right? And so you want to, if you win, you make more money, all that stuff. Well, I've always thought if you have good managers, the reason you hire that manager is to do the stuff to manage that part, right? And then you manage the managers, and that's kind of the way the stuff works. And being the owner, though, you're the one financing everything. Well, essentially, fans finance everything, but you're the one financing it, writing that check. And that's the way, like you said, that's the way their business is run, right? They have billions of dollars in businesses that they've made over the years and years, and that's how they've done it. And so they, like I said, it doesn't necessarily translate all the directly, but I can understand where they're coming from, sitting in the owner's seat. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
So I'm going to go back to the 1996 Patriots when Bill Parcells the Patriots lost to the Packers. And so and then he ended up leaving the team and going to the Jets. Mm-hmm. So he left because that was the big saying of, if they, want you to make the dinner, then they should let you buy the groceries.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And so essentially he wanted more control to like either
roster,
be the GM,
yeah,
roster control. But also Robert Kraft was meddling in a lot of these decisions, trying to be a hands-on owner.
Yeah.
So then they went through the whole Pete Carroll phase and they were terrible. And then Bill Belichick came in and Bill Belichick's like, yeah, no, I'll be your coach, but you can't make any decisions.
Yeah.
And essentially he stayed out of it for most of the last 20 years. There may have been a couple occasions where like they gave Brady an extension or they kept Gronk or, every once in a while Kraft probably weighed in and overruled Bill, but not like he would have when he was younger.
Not to the detriment of the team.
Right. And so I think that's what you need. You need an owner that's separate and stays out of it. Run the PR, make sure that we have money, but stay out of the football decisions.
That was one of the stipulations of Bill coming over, right? Is stay out of it. And so
yeah, it worked out.
Yep.
We're still working out.
Still working out.
So speaking of Bill Belichick and good decisions, Josh McDaniels from the Bill Belichick coaching tree was hired as the Raiders head coach, and he brings with him David Ziegler, who was the de facto GM this year. I think he was either the GM or head of player personnel.
Assistant GM, something like that.
It's hard to tell with the Patriots because they have all these weird titles that don't mean anything. But essentially, he was the de facto GM, and he did a great job with the draft this year. That was sort of something Belichick had to give up this year. I think he was asked by Robert Kraft because Tom Brady won a Super Bowl, and so the whole like we got to win a Super Bowl to one up Tom. So Bill Belichick had to give up some of his duties that he wasn't very good at, and GM is one of them. He's not very good at drafting players. So David Ziegler did a pretty good job. He drafted Daniel Jones, Christian Barmore, Ronnie Perkins, Ramondre Stevenson, Joshua Bledsoe, a couple other guys from last year's draft. All of them are still on the team as far as I know, but Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th round is an awesome pick. I bet Bill Belichick did the Christian Barmore one because he's the defensive tackle out of Alabama. Mac Jones is out of Alabama, so they just talked to Nick Saban. The Raiders are also hiring Patrick Graham, who's the defensive coordinator from the Giants. So Graham knows McDaniels from their time together in New England, where he worked from 2009 to 2015 in multiple roles. So with the Raiders hiring Patrick Graham as a DC, Gus Bradley is leaving the Raiders to go to the Colts to be their DC because the Colts DC went to the Bears. So there's a little DC triangle. Everyone's moving around, getting to where they want to be. But I like the Josh McDaniels, David Ziegler, Patrick Graham team. Obviously, Josh McDaniels will run the offense. They'll hire an offense coordinator, maybe not.
Yeah, probably to help with running backs and wide receivers and O-line and things like that. Help with development of those things.
So I think he'll do good with the Raiders. The only problem is, or the biggest problem is the owner. And they have an above average QB. They have an okay running back. They have 2 really good tight ends. They have no really wide receivers.
They need offensive line too.
Yeah. So the real question is, the Raiders made the playoffs. They played really tough, but they lost their interim head coach. They went through a lot of turmoil last year. So they're
in a tough division too.
Yeah, and anytime a new coach comes in, like you got to do your own thing and get your own guys. And so I wonder if he's going to keep Derek Carr or keep Jacobs, or if they're going to like do some trades, wheeling and dealing here.
I think Jacobs is a good running back. It's you had a top 5 offensive line. We talked about it before. You had a top 5 offensive line, and then you sold them all off and expected to have the same results, right? So that was just a poor decision to go in that direction. But I don't know.
Would you keep
I
Derek Carr?
think I would.
Or would you trade him to the Brownies for some draft picks? Or
Not
any
the
team
Browns,
that's
not
or any team that's desperate for a quarterback.
I'd want a higher draft pick than the Browns.
Sure. Atlanta still has Matty Ryan. Carolina, trade him to Carolina.
Good.
Houston. Miami.
Houston could use them. Miami could.
If they're not sold on Tua, which that was sort of the thing. I guess Flores wasn't sold on Tua. He wanted Deshaun Watson before all this happened. But
yeah.
So anyway, do you think Josh McDaniels will succeed in the Raiders? I think he will. With David Ziegler drafting for him, the Raiders' biggest problem recently is drafting. Henry Ruggs, and then Henry Ruggs got in that accident. We all know what happened there. They had to cut their number 1 corner because he's an idiot. They traded Khalil Mack for some draft picks in the Trubisky trade, but then didn't do anything with those picks. So I think Brian Edwards is the only one that they like still have out of those picks.
Yeah, well,
so David Ziegler should definitely help them this year. I'd like to see what they do.
It's tough to. I think Henry Ruggs would have been pretty decent had he not done stupid shit. And then
I don't know. I don't like those speedster guys.
No, I mean, I don't necessarily either, but
could he have been like a Jalen Waddle? Maybe if they had the right offensive scheme. But I think they were running Gruden's offense, and Gruden's offense is sort of like a Jim Harbaugh one. It's a lot of running.
Yeah.
With some limited passing in there. So.
No, I think he certainly could be. I don't know that he would be a superstar like Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle's a better wide receiver, but he certainly could have been a really good one.
Sure.
But again, tough to say now. It's all speculation. I don't think he'll have another shot at playing the NFL, at least for the next 10 years.
Yeah. So do you think the Raiders are going to be good sooner than later?
No. I think they're going to go down. I don't think they make playoffs next year.
Well, I mean, I think they're going to have to do something to get some draft picks back. I think they have to get rid of Carr or Jacob. Somebody has to go.
And if you do that, you're going to get worse.
Sure. But it's temporary.
Sure.
If that's their long-term strategy to build within the draft, we'll see what they do, but free agency and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's some good free agents out there for wide receiver. Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to tie yourself to Derek Carr? He's only had one good year. That was basically this year. I think he's worse than like Kirk Cousins. Like he's in the middle, bottom of the middle.
Would you put him on the same level as Jimmy Garoppolo?
Jimmy's better.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Derek Carr is like he's better than Baker Mayfield, but worse than Kirk Cousins, and worse than Jimmy.
Because Jimmy is actually now going to 2 Super Bowls. Oh, sorry, no, he's not going to 2. He went to 1.
Yeah, I think Jimmy could be. He's better than Derek Carr.
But I think you could win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr if the rest of the team around him was solid too.
I think what also helps Josh McDaniels in this case is that he doesn't need Aaron Rodgers type play. He had Tom Brady, but Tom Brady didn't have a great arm. Or at least that's always been the knock. He can just create these smaller passes.
Yeah, but they never asked Tom Brady to chuck the ball 60 yards and have a guy run under it.
Yeah, and I don't think Josh McDaniels will either.
No.
Which I want to see what Darren Waller. I want to know what Darren Waller does next year.
He's going to go fucking bananas.
Because, Josh McDaniels coached Gronk for a while and Aaron Hernandez for a while. And so they have Darren Waller and then they have Foster Monroe. Foster Monroe is actually really good.
Yeah.
He's just the backup.
Darren Waller athletically is better than Gronkowski.
Yes. Not as good a blocker, though.
Not as good a blocker. But you put Foster Moreau in and use Darren Waller as a
they're both
decoy,
receivers,
use it, switch back and forth between decoys. Just go jumbo every play.
I mean, that's what I would do if I were him, because that's what the Patriots used to do. And then just find somebody who can be a possession receiver. Use Brian Edwards. I hate how the Raiders don't use Brian Edwards. They wait until there's like 2 minutes left in the game. Then they're like, oh, Brian Edwards is open.
Yeah.
And he makes 4 catches in 2 minutes. Where was he the other 3 quarters? Like, I don't understand that. But anyway, it's also some bias. I have him in a couple fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
So
I'll trade you a 4th round pick for him.
No, not a chance. He's going to be a stud this year.
No, he's not. He's going to be junk.
That's what I said the last 2 years. The Giants have hired a GM, Joe Schoen, and then they hired Brian Dable. Both are from the Bills, so that's their connection. And then with all this Brian Flores stuff, the Giants don't look good here. But I think that was a smart move to get both of those guys from the Bills, because the Bills are an up-and-coming team. I predict a down year for the Bills, though. I think they're going to miss the playoffs because now Brian Dable's not coaching Josh Allen. So I think that's good. Then they're going to have to learn a new offense, bleep the Bills, bleep Bills Mafia. If any of you are listening, you can suck it. But I like it that I like it that the GM and the head coach are paired together. I really like those marriages, people that have already worked together. So there's not really like conflicts or anything. Let's see.
You predict they miss playoffs.
Yep.
They're going to make playoffs a bit.
Now, I like that Brian Dable is an offense coordinator that has a track record of working with quarterbacks. So he worked with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen has gotten better year after year after year. Now, I don't know if he can save Daniel Jones. We'll see. But maybe. Because Daniel Jones can run a little bit. If he just doesn't fumble, and if he doesn't do the interceptions where he looks straight at the corner and throws it at him, if he can eliminate some of those and they give him some offensive line help, I think they can turn it around a little bit. But the cons are the Giants suck and they have very few assets to like rebuild with here. So I think they're going to have to trade Saquon Barkley away straight up, or do Barkley and Daniel and trade him for somebody who's like elite, like an elite quarterback. So the Giants are going to be bad, even with Brian Dable and that offense. It's going to take a while for them to get a lot of pieces because their defense sucks too.
What do you think you could get for Saquon?
A couple first rounds.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true. He's a running back.
He's a running back. He's injury prone,
but he's also played behind a really bad offensive line.
He's had one major knee, and in what, 3 years, probably played a half a dozen games.
I saw a trade somewhere. I don't have it in front of me, but it was Saquon. So they were trading away Saquon and like a first for like a super duper quarterback.
But why would you do that? You have Daniel Jones still on a rookie contract. You'd have to get Daniel Jones out of there too.
Okay, let's see. This says trade him to Kansas City. I'm trying to see what it would be for. Oh, trade him to Buffalo. Buffalo needs a running back. Kansas City needs a running back.
And there are ties back to Buffalo.
and then trade him to Miami.
Okay.
So teams that desperately need running backs, and that are actually pretty good. All three of those teams are actually pretty good. They just need somebody that can do a little bit. Now, I don't think it really tells me when I'm looking here what they're going to get in return. I think it's for like one was for a second rounder. Ew.
Yeah, I'm telling you, his price tag isn't at an all-time high.
I mean, I'd do that trade. Saquon Barkley to Kansas City for a second round. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
because Clyde Edwards-Helaire really hasn't done anything.
He's got some injury issues too.
Yeah, and then if I was who was the other team? Miami. Sure, we spent all the money on Deshaun Watson, or we were going to give up all those picks for Deshaun Watson since that's not working out. Yeah. I don't know. That was interesting. But yeah, you're right. I don't think his value is as high as it could have been.
It's not right after his rookie year. You know, you probably could have got 3 picks, 2 of them being first rounders after his rookie year.
But do you think the Giants are going to be good sooner than later? I mean, I think it's another rebuild. And I think they're going to have to do something with the pieces. Like the roster's a mess. Dave Gettleman screwed this up hard.
I don't know why you're saying it's another rebuild. I think they're still in a rebuild.
Yeah, but they've been in one since like
2011.
Yeah, they've been in one for a while.
I agree.
Ben McAdoo went 14-2 one year or something like that, and then it's been downhill after that.
I think they're still in a rebuild, and I think they're going to have some dark days ahead of them before they get to.
But do you think this was the right hire or the right hires?
Oh, sure. I think these 2 guys could certainly turn things around, but they're going to need some patience, right?
Yeah, their roster's bad.
So
they could trade away Kenny Galladay too. They could trade away some of the wide receivers. I can't think of if they have any defensive players that are any good.
No, they keep trading them all away.
So, but they'll need to do something to get some picks. So
they're going to have to get picks. They're going to have
the
to get
fastest
picks
way to rebuild is to get rid of guys
and get picks, and they're going to have to get lucky in the draft. Honestly, either that or get some older free agent veterans that will help you along as well and help some of your young guys learn how to be a professional, that sort of thing.
But I think this GM is the right guy because Buffalo rebuilt via the draft. They don't really get free agents.
I mean, they did make
nobody wants to go to Buffalo.
They made a nice trade in the Stephon Diggs. So that's
sure.
a guy they didn't draft. Manuel Sanders this year, but whatever. Some of their defensive
Josh
guys,
Allen, the offensive line, the defensive line, like
no, and
safety.
I certainly agree that they've done a good job drafting.
Yeah, but generally, free agents don't want to go to Buffalo. Sorry, Buffalo's not it's a cold weather place. You don't want to play there, but like they're getting more attention now from free agents because they're better as a team.
Yep.
So I think that comes with winning.
Yep.
So we'll move on to the next thing. The Jaguars hired Doug Peterson as a coach. I think he was the best head coach available. He went to the Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. Beat the Patriots. We don't want to talk about it. We'll talk about the scandal of Malcolm Butler all over again. So the pros, I mean, he's got Trevor Lawrence, he's got Travis Etienne, he's got James Robinson. They usually have a good pick, but again, they're in a rebuild. They were in a rebuild last year. They're still going to be in a rebuild. Their defense still stinks.
Number 1 overall pick, right?
Yeah, they're going to have really good draft position per usual. So if there isn't somebody there that they want, they can move back and get more value. But the cons is this Jacksonville. There are no fans. You always play a London home game, so you only have 7 home games. And then you're tied to Trent Baalke. So hopefully Doug Peterson knows how to work with him. But like I said, anytime a GM and a head coach aren't tied together, was Doug Peterson Trent Baalke's guy? I don't really know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I do know that the Eagles did like playing for
Doug Peterson.
I mean, I was still really surprised. He won them a Super Bowl and then had 2 down years and then was fired.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's a tough draw.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I like Doug Peterson. I think he's a good hire here. And like you said, they're obviously at the bottom of where they could be. So there's really only one way to go.
Yeah, that's another pro. They can only get better, right? They can't be 1-17 again.
Yeah. I mean, they could go 0-17, but I don't think it's going to happen.
So yeah, I think he could be the right guy. I don't know if Doug Peterson really has a history of developing quarterbacks, but you have Trevor Lawrence. He did coach Carson Wentz
and Nick Foles.
And then I'm not sure, was Peterson there when they had Mahomes? At least with Alex Smith, I know Alex Smith was there, but Alex Smith was good before he got there. But anyway,
yeah, I don't remember if they had much. I mean, I think he coached Mahomes, but Mahomes was backup. I think Alex Smith was the starter at that point.
And then he took off to the Eagles. Yeah.
Yep.
So the rumor is the Vikings are going to hire offense coordinator Kevin O'Connell of the Rams after the Super Bowl. He really can't do it before then because he's still working.
Still under contract.
So the big issue there is that means the Vikings messed up an interview with Jim Harbaugh. So I think he went on National Signing Day in college, which is a huge day. Like your coach should be there with his players or, something. He goes to Minnesota for an interview on National Signing Day. So that's a red flag. And then
I got a question for you. Do you
go on?
It's tough to say. You said the Vikings messed up, and maybe they had, but
yeah, it's on the Vikings.
Okay, I'll agree it's on the Vikings, but I think Jim Harbaugh is certainly the one that said thanks, but no thanks.
I think that's the safe face because he had to go back to his college. So he has to say that.
Okay.
You can't go back and be like, well, you're my second choice. I didn't really want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just go find somebody else.
Sure.
But I think, so he knew the GM. They had a history in San Francisco, so it should have been a slam dunk. And I think he was under the impression that he was already getting the job. Instead, they wanted him to go through the same thing. They had hired interviewed Patrick Graham the day before, and he went through a 9-hour, all day, what are you going to say during your press conferences? What are you going to do during this? What are you going to do during that? Jim Harbaugh has already been a head coach for 19 years. What Jim Harbaugh is. He shouldn't have to do that whole charade. If he's your guy, he's your guy. So I think they misrepresented what that was supposed to be. I would have much rather have Jim Harbaugh. I think he's good for the National Football League, and now he's going back to college, which sucks.
And I don't know that he'll ever come out unless he gets fired from Michigan.
Right. And he had his best year at Michigan, beat Ohio State finally. The only problem is I don't think he can do any better there besides winning a national title, which is hard to do against Alabama and Clemson and Georgia,
LSU.
So I would have much rather had Jim Harbaugh on the Vikings because Jim Harbaugh was 19-year experience as a head coach. We know what he did in San Francisco. In 4 years, he was amazing. Went to the Super Bowl once. Had Kaepernick as his quarterback, for God's sakes. But that run game, if you put Jim Harbaugh there with Dalvin Cook, that run game would have been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty good anyway, but give him Jim Harbaugh, who's awesome. So that brings me to the cons. Like, why would you want Kevin O'Connell? I don't know why you want Kevin O'Connell. He has never been a head coach. Sean McVay runs that offense. So what does O'Connell do exactly? It's the same thing with like the argument against Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City. If you're not calling the plays, like what are you doing? At least in Tampa Bay, Byron Leftwich is the offense coordinator. He is calling all the plays. Bruce Arians is not calling the plays. So, well, I mean, obviously we've seen those rookie jumps before from offense coordinators who don't really call plays, but I don't know how that's really worked out. Matt Nagy was terrible when we saw that because he was under Andy Reid. He didn't call plays. He just became head coach and got awful. We've seen it a few other times. I'd much rather have like Kellen Moore. I'd rather have an offense coordinator that actually calls plays.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm still really surprised that Byron Leftwich and I thought both of them would be gone.
Eric Bieniemy?
No, not Bieniemy. Leftwich and Todd Bowles. Oh, yeah, and Kellen Moore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Todd Bowles will take over when Bruce Arians retires in Tampa Bay, but Leftwich will probably go somewhere. But like I said, the coaching cycles that's left now, they're just are shitty teams. You don't want to go there. So you want to go somewhere where you have a chance to win.
Fred Leftwich didn't get the Jaguars job.
He didn't like Trent Baalke. He wanted his guy. And you can't really sit in an interview room and be like, I'll take the job if you fire that guy. Because Trent Baalke was obviously in on all the interviews.
Well, he would have been able to do that.
Oh, yeah, I'll take the job. Just fire the guy I'm talking to. Just fire that guy.
Fire the guy that's going to hire me.
That's a tough sell.
Yeah, and I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. He's going back to another job, right? It's not like he's out of a job and looking for one.
Sure.
So
kind of a dick move.
Oh,
I think he did it via the back channels, like afterwards.
Sure.
And then nothing came of it. So, but Kevin O'Connell hasn't done anything. I looked him up just because I was curious. In 2019, he was the offense coordinator of the Washington football team. They ranked last in points scored, points per game, 31st in yards. They beat the Jets by 1.7 yards that year. So in 2020, Ron Rivera took over the Washington football team. So they got rid of, or they didn't renew Kevin O'Connell's contract. So he went to the Rams. So in 2020, they were 22nd in total points. That's not good. That was with Jared Goff. Maybe Todd Gurley was hurt most that year. But again, I don't know if he's calling the plays or if that's Sean McVay. Probably Sean McVay.
No, Todd Gurley wasn't even there anymore.
In 2020? Okay.
That was the year Todd Gurley was in the Rams.
So last year, they were 8th in points. But again, is that Sean McVay calling the plays? I think it is. So Kevin O'Connell really hasn't done anything or really been part of any teams that have done anything. So I don't like this hire. Again, I'd rather just have Kellen Moore, somebody with a track record of calling plays, or Byron Leftwich.
Yeah,
who's a Super Bowl winning
unless it's just like a bridge hire, kind of like David Culley.
Yeah, but the Vikings don't need a bridge hire. They got pieces now. Kirk Cousins is under contract. Thielen is under contract. Jefferson's under contract. Dalvin Cook's under contract.
I'd look them up. I don't know how much left Thielen has or Dalvin Cook has on their contracts.
But I think Jerry Jones is paying Kellen Moore a bit of money to stay put.
Oh, yeah. He didn't even do that many interviews.
No. Well, I mean, if you're somebody like Kellen Moore or Byron Leftwich,
you have an opportunity to take over when the head coach leaves.
Well, no, if you're that good, again, I would just wait until you find a landing spot. Like, I don't think they're desperate for a head coaching position.
Sure.
Again, you want to go somewhere where you can succeed, or you have the pieces of the GM. Again, the teams that are left are just dog shit. And like I said, New Orleans is probably going to hire Dennis Allen, who's their defense coordinator. So,
yeah.
So Cincinnati and San Francisco won. Not San Francisco. Cincinnati and the Rams won. So they're the teams in the Super Bowl. I am taking the Rams. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't really care who wins this game. But I think the Rams have more star power, more talent, a better defensive line. I think they against Cincinnati, who's got a terrible offensive line. So I think they're just going to explode. I think that defensive line is going to be the big difference in this game. Von Miller, Donald, Floyd. I think they're going to mess up Joe Burrow. So, what do you think?
I want to pick Cincinnati because I want to see them win, but I think the Rams are going to win for the reason that you said of the offense for Cincinnati. That offensive line is awful.
Yeah, but they do, and their defense is kind of middle of the road, but their offense can score points. The only problem is like, can they do enough with Mixon and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Boyd? Can they make enough quick passes and big plays to offset what Von Miller and Aaron Donald are going to do to them?
Well, I agree with that. And then think of it. I don't know that Cincinnati's gone up against the defense this good.
Probably not.
I might be wrong, but you're also forgetting Jalen Ramsey's going to be all over Jamar Chase the whole game.
They went against the Packers and they lost, but that game nobody could kick a field goal. Looking for other good defenses. They went against good defenses. So like I put the Packers, I picked San Francisco. They only scored 22 and 23 points respectively against those teams.
I mean, they played Pittsburgh twice. Pittsburgh's defense was pretty decent, although they had some injury trouble. Baltimore's defense is usually decent.
And then they beat the Raiders, the Titans, and the Chiefs.
But I wouldn't say any of those three defenses would scare me.
No, the Chiefs had been playing a lot better, and the Titans
Sure.
have been playing a lot better of late. But yeah, they're not elite defenses, no. The only two that I can think of are the Packers and the 49ers. Maybe the Broncos at one point, but again, they only scored 15 points against the Broncos.
So, yeah, this is going to be the toughest defense they're going to go up against the whole time. And what did they give up last week against Kansas City, which has a middle of the road defense?
27.
No, I know, but
how many points they scored? 24.
Didn't they give up 9 sacks?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like that's way too much. And that's against the middle of the road defense. This is a top 5 defense, and that's being generous.
Yeah.
So I think Aaron Donald's going to have 4 sacks himself.
Maybe if he does that, he'll be the MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want the Bengals to do well. I just don't think they have the pieces. As far as being like a well-rounded team, I don't think that's the case. I can't name a player they have on defense, to be honest. I can name a lot of players on their offense, but I can't name anybody on defense. Compared to like the Rams, where we have Ramsey, Eric Weddle came back.
They got Hendrickson.
Yeah, he's the DN. Yeah.
Yeah.
Signed him from what, the Raiders last year?
I don't remember, but he's a monster. But anyway, so there's a,
I think there's like an 80-20 chance that the Rams win this.
What is the spread? I wonder what the betting lines are. Let's see.
But I know that Taylor is going to get a contract extension for sure.
Yeah, and he should, right? I think he's done a really good job, because I think he was part of the drafting too.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a dog shit job to take, and he's turned it around.
Yeah. The Rams are a 4.5 point favorite.
Well, they're playing in their home stadium, but technically the Bengals are the home team.
Mm-hmm.
Because the AFC has it this year.
Game's at 6:30, huh? Isn't it usually like 8:00 that the game starts? I wonder if it's because it's on West Coast.
Probably just because it's on the West Coast. Anyway, I'm gonna get some nachos, some pizza,
Some wings.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Super
Yeah.
Bowl food.
Have you seen? Have you looked to see what the weather's supposed to be?
It doesn't matter. They're playing in a dome.
No, not there. Here. See if we're gonna be grilling.
Probably a fucking snowstorm. Would be my guess.
Shit, we got snow tomorrow, snow Tuesday, snow Saturday, a little snow Sunday.
So we'll cover some other sports news. Looks like the Celtics are on a roll. They're 7-3 in the last 10. Not a whole lot to talk about there. They're still below expectations. They're in the 8th spot right now. They're still the Celtics, so whatever. Looks like there's some NHL news. So it was weird. Opening ceremonies, the NHL All-Star Skills Competition, and like the Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl Skills Competition were all on like the same day on TV. So it's kind of weird that sort of scheduling happened.
Which I kind of want to talk about the NFL Skills Competition. I didn't watch it by any means, and there's some cool stuff, right? With the accuracy.
Yeah, I like watching that because there's some throws that they make it ridiculous.
But playing dodgeball, really?
Yeah, change it up.
I'm really upset with you right now.
I'm fine with
it. It's so stupid.
Sure.
It's a skills competition. What skills does dodgeball have?
You got a juke.
I think we're done here.
Yeah, agility.
Anyway, the NHL skills competition started on Friday, which is way better because they're actually applicable to the friggin' game.
They were playing cards.
They were shooting at cards, which is an accuracy shooting, which is pretty cool. I was watching it just before we started recording. Bergeron was the rep from the Bruins, and he competed in the accuracy shooting, the 4 targets accuracy shooting. Not great. He came in like 6th out of 9.
Sucks.
I mean, he hit all 4 of them. It was just like 20 seconds where the Sebastian Aho won, and he did it in like 10.
Big difference.
Connor McDavid is some of the news that come out. Connor McDavid did not win fastest skater, which he had like the last 3 years. Jordan Kyrou from St. Louis wins that. Zach Werenski won the fountain face-off, which is a new and probably only time they're ever going to do it, skills competition. So they were in the Bellagio fountain.
Yeah, they were on
and shooting at different targets in the fountain.
Yeah, they had to like toss the puck over there, and it had to stay on the other platform, right? So they were air passes, which is crazy.
Yep. Again, I already said Sebastian Aho won the accuracy. Victor Hedman won hardest shot, 103.2, something like that. So Bruins don't play again until Tuesday. Their last game was Wednesday, I believe it was, against Seattle, where they won 3-2. Nice win there. And nice little break. I'm glad they're getting a chance to take a break and have some time off. I don't remember who they play on Tuesday. It might be Pittsburgh, maybe. Last note out of here is the 2023 Winter Classic is going to be at Fenway. What'd you say?
Pittsburgh.
Is it Pittsburgh on Tuesday? Okay. The 2023 Winter Classic is going to be coming to Fenway. So maybe we can see how much tickets are going to be in, and maybe we'll take a trip down there on New Year's Day.
Maybe. That's a good idea.
Yeah. That's all I have from the sports world. Again, it was pretty crazy week. Isn't that all we have?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. You gave me a face. And MLB is still in a lockout.
I was reading the extracurriculars where Book of Boba Fett. I still have to watch this week's episode, But then I saw that you have Many Saints in Newark. I thought you already watched that.
No, I wanted to. I just never. HBO took it off, but before I was able to get at it.
Oh, I thought I was rereading like something that was old.
Nope.
Because you mentioned it like 2 months ago.
I watched that one. I really liked it. From what I understand, though, you have to watch the rest of the Sopranos to get all the references in Many Saints. So look forward to that. But I did like the movie. I thought it was really good. And then I watched The Card Counter. Have you heard of this?
No.
Oscar Isaacs. So whatever his name is. I really liked it. It was kind of a dark movie. Similar to, what's another dark movie? Just in the maybe Driver, you know how it's not really. Have you ever or Drive?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
A dark movie like that. There's no real comedy. I mean, there's a couple things, but it was just but really good movie. I really enjoyed it. And then started Office Space on the way down. But it's just such a good feel good movie that after Card Counter, I needed a little upper. And then on the way back, after Many Saints Newark, I tried to finish Eternals and still haven't been able to. I've sat down like 4 times to try to watch it.
Still haven't seen it.
Any of it?
No.
It's on Disney. You should watch it.
So before we get to that, I just updating, ESPN here. The Steelers are promoting Terrell Austin as their defense coordinator. He was their secondaries coach, so no real surprise there. He's probably going to run his own scheme just like they've always done. So we'll see how they do against a good quarterback who makes good decisions. That you just get shredded.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. But getting back to extracurriculars, did you watch last week's episode of Book of Boba Fett?
Whole thing was basically The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that one. Really good.
Awesome. So I haven't seen this week, so I don't know what's happened.
I haven't either.
I had to wait for it's hard because my wife works late on Wednesdays, so it's hard for her to stay up and watch those. So we pushed it off till today.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll watch it probably right after this. That's it for me.
I did have one other note. We talked about the Olympics here just really quickly.
Oh, sure.
I did want to mention the women's Olympic team. So they played 3 games so far. They've won 5-2 against Finland, I think it was. And then
they've been crushing people.
5-0 against ROC, the Russian Olympic Committee, and then they won 8-0, I think was the final score for today's game against the Swiss. So they've been rolling. They actually got a big test coming up. What is it, tomorrow? Tomorrow or the day after against.
So do we normally win the Winter Olympics because we send more athletes than anybody else? Or is this something where all like the Nordic countries are going to dominate? Right
United
now,
States,
it's like
United
Russia's
States
winning.
sends a lot.
But that's why we win. But like in the Winter Olympics, like a lot of those Nordic countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland, like they end up getting a lot of Netherlands, Germany. They end up getting a lot of Russia. They end up getting a lot of medals compared to us.
Correct. They do, but the United States does get a lot of medals too. I
definitely like the Winter Olympics better than the Summer Olympics.
100%.
Just the sports that they do. I don't really care as much for the skiing per se. But like the ski jump's always cool. That's cool that snowboarding's in there. I think it's Shaun White said it. That's his name, right? Shaun White.
Yep.
I think he said it's his last year. He's going to retire.
Yeah, he said he's going to retire. But so this is his 4th?
Yeah, he's
4th or 5th Olympics.
Done it forever. So there's ice hockey. I prefer to watch like curling, the biathlon, bobsled.
Biathlon, we were watching that last night.
Luge, skeleton, speed skating. I like all those.
Yeah.
I don't really care for figure skating.
No.
or cross country skiing or free skiing or
I was
alpine
watching
skiing.
a little of
I don't need to watch any of that.
the freestyle moguls this morning, the women's event, which
Oh, that's bananas.
one of an American woman took the silver, which was great to see.
Yeah. But I'm definitely going to catch some biathlon, some curling. Jamaica has a bobsled team again. So in case nobody's ever seen that movie, Cool Runnings.
Yeah.
John Candy. I was flipping through the TV and I came across Uncle Buck and I hadn't seen it in at least 20 years. But I watched the very beginning. I didn't realize Macaulay Culkin was the kid in that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I texted you. I was like, did you remember that he was in it? I only remember Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. I didn't realize he did anything else. But anyway, the luge, skeleton, those are cool. Speed skating is always fun to watch too. Those three sports and bobsledding, like they're really crazy to watch because it's all about speed and the wrecks. Somebody loses a blade in speed skating, they go hard into the wall.
Yeah. Jesus.
Bobsledding, they're usually okay, but skeleton's crazy. It's just a dude on one little board, right?
What is it?
But skeleton.
So skeleton is the same. It's essentially the same thing as luge, but he's face first, where luge he's backwards
on his back. Okay.
Yeah.
Biathlon. I want to watch the biathlon. That's like an endurance.
They had it on last night.
Yeah.
You might have missed it actually.
No, they'll show more.
No, I
There's
think
a whole bunch of them.
I don't know.
You're dead to me. No, schedule. They play every day.
Oh, you know what it was? They did
it was probably a heat.
It was a team biathlon, so it was 4 guys. It was actually a medal event, but it was
a relay.
Relay, thank you.
Yeah, so then they have the women's 15-kilometer individual. Then there's a sprint. And then there's a 4x7.5 relay. Yeah. But anyway, the biathlon was really cool event because it's endurance. So you're getting your heart rate up, going up these hills or whatever. But then you have to like calm your heart rate down to hit all your shots.
Yeah.
And then if you like miss one, you got to do a penalty loop usually.
So it's, I don't remember exactly how it goes. You have to hit the 5 targets. If you hit it in 5 shots, you don't have to stop. But if you don't hit it, you can reload, but I think you can only reload like 2 or 3 times or whatever. You only get to maybe aim for each target 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, but there's also a penalty loop too.
I thought it was like they kept calling it a penalty area. I didn't know if it was a space you said just had to stop or if you had to go farther.
It's a big circle. You got to go in and do a loop, and then you can come back out into the track to the regular track.
Do you have to do a loop for every target missed?
I think so. So I don't know how long it takes me to do the loops, but add that to your time.
Yeah, right.
So don't miss any shots. You can make it up for it. I mean, if you got super endurance.
So the big time to make up, or the big way to make it up is hitting all your targets in 5 shots. That's the way you make up time in biathlon.
Oh, okay.
Because the U.S., the third guy in the U.S. was like 6th or 7th getting to the shooting area, hit all his shots in 5 consecutive shots, and he was gone. He left second. And he was 15 or 20 seconds behind.
Yeah, so, I think there's a lot of skill in that particular sport.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
So, especially with like the conditioning and then the aim, the eyesight, calming your breath. So concentration. Not saying the other ones don't have concentration, like the luge and skeleton and bobsled are all, they're doing stuff. It's just harder for us to understand exactly what they're doing because they're just flying down.
Yeah, bobsled, they get the steering, to help steer in the front, and it's different.
Yeah. I really like watching speed skating. Usually America does pretty well there. But yeah, I like the Winter Olympics.
I got mixed curling on right now. Mixed
Didn't
doubles.
even know that was a thing.
Mixed doubles. So it's Italy versus Sweden.
The American men's curling team's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they got all
'cause
fired up.
Yeah, but they're just like look like a bunch of drunk dudes, essentially. Like
You know what they remind me of is
athletes.
I was gonna say what they remind me of is
Rounds of shape.
like us getting together and drinking beer, like crushing beers and going to do it. That's what it would remind me of.
Yeah, and they just happen to be really good at it.
Just super rowdy and hooting and hollering, and
But they don't look like athletes, quote unquote. But
No.
obviously they're good at what they do. All right, that's it for me.
Yep. Bring us home.
You can catch our podcast on Apple Podcasts, also Spotify, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Podchaser, Buzzsprout, and Google Podcasts. You can watch the episodes on YouTube on the New England Sports Guys channel. Make sure to subscribe and help us out. We'll be putting more content going forward as well.
Might do a live stream for Super Bowl.
Maybe for a quarter or two. Sure.
Yeah. Before we get real buckled.
You can hit us up on Twitter at NESG Pod and hit us up on Instagram at NESG_pod. And we'll catch you guys Super Bowl weekend.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Ian, it was a good one. It was a nice long one. And I will catch up with you later, buddy.
All righty.
See you.
See you.